It is the Pete Souza Show, of course. We are presented by Slovacics. Shout out to my boy Ray. I got the Slovacics gear on today. You'll love our sausage. Oh, man, I'm telling you, you stop by Slovacics. Everybody we have on this show that's a guest that's from out of town but comes through Waco for games. Talking offline with Chris Patoli yesterday, who joined us from ESPN. That interview is up right now on the show YouTube. If you missed it, make sure you click and subscribe. But Chris loves Slovacics. Fran Fraschilla loves Slovacics. Who's another guy? Richie Rich Hollenberg loves Slovacics. These are all guys who come through town to broadcast Baylor games, and just some of the people who rave about Slovacics. So make sure you get out there to West if you're coming through town, and stop at Slovacics and just engage the overall experience and leave a happier person than you were when you showed up. That's what I said about my my little foray into Please Bear With Me the other night on Sunday night. I left Terrence and Scotty after doing the Please Bear With Me show feeling better than I did when I arrived. That's always a good sign. Slovacics is the same thing. Also, Crawford Austin Properties, run by my man Gordon Harriman, who, by the way, shout out to Sobriety and Gordon, had 34 years of sobriety on Monday. Pretty cool. I mean, that's Gordon's legit, dude. You can catch him on Facing the Mirror. That's also a podcast here on the Rogue Media Network. One more sobriety note. The Payoff with Pete, Stories of Sobriety, is coming back. We got our first, I'm doing an interview on Thursday night, so that'll probably be up next week. And then we're going to rock and roll. Basketball season's over for me, not for everybody else. So, yeah, we got a little bit more time to dig in, get our hands dirty, and help other people get clean, right? That's the whole deal. And one thing to start the show off with, and we'll get to some of our other sponsors throughout the show. Instant reaction off college basketball. I said the season's over, but it's kind of just beginning. Jalen Celestine is entering the transfer portal. 6'7" wing, played a key role for the Bears. 11 straight starts to end the season. He was one guy who I felt like when Baylor needed a shot, he could get it off and make it. Truly, there was a point in the season where VJ Edgecombe was that guy, and, VJ just hit a rough spot. For Celestine, he really stepped up. He shot almost 40% from three. He was a transfer from Cal, and I was almost disappointed to see how little success he had early in the season, and super impressed by I guess pleasantly surprised, right? Because I'd sort of had ruled him out, but with injuries and other things, he got an opportunity, and he made tough shots. And again, Scotty was talking to Zach Owen, who's got the Zach Owen show here on the Rogue Media Network. Scotty was doing a sports update on Zach's show, and Scotty was just explaining to him how the transfer portal, you did a good job, Scotty, about the transfer portal. Like, we don't know what it was. Like, honestly, I bet I could call a couple people right now. This just happened, but I bet I could reach out to a couple people and find out exactly what did happen. Like, there's a reason for why he left. But right now, it could be so many things, right? It could be, back in the day, you would see a guy transfer and it would be like, okay, well, he's not happy with playing time. Maybe he hates the school. Maybe he hates the coach. And like, that was usually it. Now it's like so many other things. It's school. Well, maybe it's just one more big thing, money, because it's minutes for the NIL, and the frontier we're in now, the new frontier. It's usually minutes and money. Scotty, what are your thoughts now? Because you alerted me to this. This just came out about an hour ago.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Jalen Celestine leaving and as to why he is leaving?
Yeah, again, you said it. We don't know, like, no idea, because you would think, I think often when guys have left Baylor, I'm thinking of others, it is a minutes conversation.
Yeah.
I think with Langston Love, it might have been a reality check of like, man, we've had 2 seasons where he hasn't been able to take the court very often, and maybe Scott's like, we need guys that can take the court, right?
Yeah.
So some of those you understand. Celestine was going to get minutes. Like, Celestine was probably a locked-in starter next year.
Yeah.
And I know we just got it might be that the kid we just signed from Oregon State, his name is escaping me at the moment, I can look in a second, is a similar positional player, 6'9" wing, who shoots well from outside. And maybe Celestine felt like he's going to take my spot and I'm going to be off the bench again. And maybe that was the conversation. But I just wonder if it's not some smaller school saying you're going to be scorer A or scorer B, and here's the check. And I guess we'll know by how quickly and where he goes.
Yeah.
But like, you just don't know. But I think what was astonishing is when he announced he's leaving, Baylor's got 3 returning players from last year's roster. 3. It's Rob Wright. Thank God. Right? Like that kid.
By the way, as far as we know, and Rob's a great kid, that's what we
right. Well,
that could change tomorrow.
He could announce U of H could win the championship this weekend, and he could announce he's going to play for Kelvin Sampson. Like, I doubt it. That doesn't seem like his
no,
thing.
It seems like he's building here, and all points and signs indicate.
Your point is we don't know, which is true. It's the Wild West. Like, so Rob Wright right now, Marino, Dubrovicic, and Josh O, who knows if he comes back 100% next season. We don't.
I was really looking forward to Celestine coming back. I liked his game a lot.
You know what he did that impressed me? He was better defensively than I expected.
Yeah.
He really held up defensively late.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know where this goes, but we're going to continue to find out. I was talking to a buddy of mine this morning, my buddy Tony Hayden from Philly. We were talking about John Gallagher, who's the head coach in Manhattan, and we were talking. Johnny Gal he's just a feisty dude who wants to work on basketball 24 hours a day. He's just a complete psycho. So we talked about how the transfer portal era is like perfect for John Gallagher, because John Gallagher, as much as he's a charismatic guy and an amazing dad, he would tell you basketball is his life. And I believe certain guys get a certain enjoyment about like, okay, now I can continue to hustle. This is the next thing, the transfer portal. I can go crazy this summer. There's other guys like, I would think Scott Drew, who's got maybe a little different and has, again, not a shot on Gal or any other guys, but life is bigger than basketball. So
it's a different approach. Yeah.
Maybe this is a pain in the ass for guys like Scott, like the portal, because you're older, whatever. You know, John's my age. We're both younger than Scott. And there's maybe a little bit more of a fire in the belly, you know, where okay, now it's a transfer portal time. Let me go nuts to see who I can get. But it just doesn't stop for these coaches. You know, it does not stop. And everything's on the table. Everything's legal now. As far as like, there's not really
there's no restrictions.
Dude, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at USA Basketball in 2004. I was a media relations intern, but I traveled with the women's team. On the women's team was Candace Parker. Okay. Candace Parker was going into her freshman year at Tennessee. And the head coach of this women's team, or the assistant coach, was Carolyn Peck, who's now on ESPN. At the time, she was a head coach of Florida. Candace and Carolyn developed like this really strong relationship. We had gotten, you know, it was one of those traveling deals. There was a hurricane that hit San Juan, Puerto Rico. We were stuck in like Miami. We couldn't get to where we were going. So there was a lot of downtime. And I remember on the back end of that trip, there was a huge dust up. Like, was Carolyn Peck tampering with one of Pat Summitt's players? Right. And it was a huge deal. I don't even know how they go into that. Like how these college, like, you know, these USA Basketball teams with the college coach, like, it's almost like you wouldn't want your players to go play, because that can happen, and it's almost legal now. Maybe.
Well, yeah. And Pete, I'm going to tell you the rule that I think will change like next season. I think it is so bizarre that we allow all of this while the NCAA tournament is still happening.
It's nuts, dude.
I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think like by next year or two, they're going to say transfer portal. I mean, heck, the night the championship game's over, great, open the portal. But I think it is so wild that all these big programs, Baylor and others, swapping players, transferring, and like Houston's playing basketball this weekend.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
I had a coach tell me this past year that what's going to happen is we'll have a team going to the Final Four, and they'll have a player that doesn't play in the Final Four because he'll transfer.
Yeah.
Or there could be very well be, and we've seen this before. We talked about it with you know, and this comes into the Kevin Willard conversation. And we'll get to the coaching carousel here in a minute, but when you have a coach, right, who is with a program, and it's rumored or like almost in pencil and everything but the black ink with the signature that he's going to go to another school, I think we'll see that coach get bumped. Like, you're not coaching our team in the tournament in the Final Four, like we saw decades ago with Bill Frieder and Michigan, when Bo Schembechler was like, "You're not going to coach. Steve Fisher's going to coach," and then they won a championship. That was in 1990. But I just think it's going to get worse before it gets better if they don't do something like this offseason.
Yeah, it's just wild. Hey, I did want to say, Bear the Truth and Scotty B, the Baylor King, are swapping messages here in our comments, and I think.
Are we all meeting up at Slovacics?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. If I can paraphrase, I think this is a good point. Bear the Truth immediately said it had to do with Michael, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Rataj.
Yeah, that's
the transfer from Oregon State that I mentioned, the 6'9" wing, very similar profile to Celestine. And then Scotty B points out Tunde is kind of a similar player as well.
Yeah,
they're both athletic wings who can shoot from outside. You're going to rely on them defensively. I wonder, it makes me wonder if minutes did have something to do with it. But again, that's their speculation. Nobody knows. I just don't know.
And that's good intel too. I always go back to Scott Drew has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know.
Facts.
But I would say this Celestine's a known entity right now in the Big 12 too, in your conference. Like he's the devil, And he shot 39% from three last year. And literally he was the guy, even watching that Duke game, I was like, man, they got to get a bucket here. And then he would raise for a three in the corner and knock it down. He hit some threes, like ice cold threes, like big threes. And
big games too. Houston, Kansas.
Yes. Yeah. And even losses like that Colorado loss. He was one of the only guys down the stretch that could literally get you a bucket, like raising traffic.
Other guys were cold.
No, and they could get shots off, but they couldn't make them. He could do both.
Right.
Which is essential. So
one more thought on this. The Celestine conversation, and was it the fact that maybe these two guys threatened his minutes? And so rather than stay in camp over the summer, fight for your role on the team, prove yourself against these guys, let's go transfer and play somewhere else. Let's pretend it reminds me of that conversation we had again on Please Bear With Me Sunday night when Terrence Ganaway, and this clip's on YouTube, it's 2 minutes. It's called Terrence Ganaway Says, Put Him on the Bench. Like it used to be that in college athletics, you motivated a guy with the bench.
Yeah.
And that's what Terrence was saying is like, dude, you suck and somebody else passes you. Hey, you're going to the bench. And that often would create I'll prove them wrong. And instead now, if it's anything like, hey, you might go to the bench, most guys are going to go, well, no, I'll go to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
or well, no, or even like a smaller school. I go, well, no, I'll go to McNeese. I'll go be a star at McNeese next season for Billy Armstrong. Right. Like, so it is fascinating the way that is playing out is like, and the guys that are going to get lost because they think they can transfer and then they don't give it,
I think
it's such a different world, bro.
I think one of the things that works for the small school guys or the mid-major guys is like that dude from UAB, Yax Lendeborg, who's a late first-round pick, early second-round pick. He actually stayed at UAB and developed into the monster that he is today. Like he didn't transfer back, right, to a mid-major from a major. And I'm sure there's cases out there that can refute this point I'm making, but he grew and developed there. I think there's something to staying where your feet are and building as a player, learning from the same coach. Like that dude Lendeborg's been with Andy Kennedy for 3 years. Now he just declared that he's either going to go to the transfer portal or the NBA.
Yeah.
Because ultimately now the kid he'll be a senior next year.
He can make money.
He can make a lot of money. Yeah. So like I totally understand that.
Yeah, that's a case where the transfer, it's like I totally get it. We all would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
There's other things where when we talk about bench or playing time or this culture versus this culture, it's like I just don't. Like, who knows? And what you just said reminds me, and I think we talked about this last week. I tweeted last week when Asamoah transferred. We may never get another Taurean Prince or Corey Jefferson who come into Baylor as very low, not highly recruited 2-3 star kids. And Scott Drew turns them into NBA players in the course of 4 years. But that meant they didn't have a big role initially. They sat on the bench. They developed behind other people. And then by the time they were juniors and seniors, they rose up and were stars. That's not going to happen anymore. Because now these guys transfer somewhere they can play.
I want to bounce this off you and anybody else. Get in the comments if you have a thought on this. I am so screwed up now as as a sports analyst /fan /broadcaster. When I see like Baylor signed a guy, I think from Duncanville, a football player. He is a linebacker.
Oh, from from Oak Cliff.
Oak Cliff.
Yeah, yesterday.
Okay.
So,
but he's a 3-star.
Yeah.
Which I am.
Jamarian Phillips, I think.
3 stars are great. 3 stars play in the NFL. But when I see, not all the time, but some do. When I see a 3-star, I'm like, like it's that, and that is not how it should be. But that's
you know
where
who else was a 3-star?
Who?
No, he was a 4-star. I lied. Never
Who?
mind. I was gonna say RG3, but I think he was a 4-star.
But to your point,
Seth Russell was a 3-star. And we saw his spider chart Sunday night.
Yeah, Spider. Scotty will get you caught up on spider charts.
Seth Russell was a 3-star. I mean, like, and football is this, and basketball too, but football is a sport where, and the thing about Phillips, he's at a large, big school program in Texas, and he's led the team in tackles, for loss. Like I don't know what all these talent evaluators look like.
Yeah.
But there are 5 stars who never play or have to transfer to a small school, and there are 3 stars every season who become superstar.
Okay, you ready? So let's go.
Josh Cameron walked on at Baylor.
Patrick Mahomes was not a 4-star. Okay, a 3-star recruit. Patrick Mahomes was a 3-star.
There you go.
Trent Williams, a 3-star. Okay, TJ Watt, 3-star. Travis Kelce, 2-star. Max Crosby,
enough said.
2-star. Josh Allen, 2-star.
Mm.
George Kittle, 3-star.
Come on.
Dak Prescott, 3-star.
Come on.
Justin Jefferson, 2-star. I mean, this is it. Mike Evans, 3-star. The list goes on and on.
Right.
Khalil Mack, 2-star.
Right.
Debo Samuel, 3-star. So, like, I got to chill on the how about Deron Bland? You know what he was? Unranked. I mean, so that is.
And then you have Jackson Arnold, 5-star.
Yeah.
Struggled at Oklahoma. Now we'll see if he's any good at Auburn. Maybe a mediocre college quarterback.
I know this, and again, we're like in a fluid space here on this show right now because we're live. Who does make I've read it, I know it, I forget it. Do you know who qualifies those guys as 5 stars? Is it like
whoever the sites hire?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what their qualifications are
like,
before they get hired, but
because it's not
Scout and Rivals and ESPN.
It's not Jim Nagy and Todd McShay sitting in the room.
No,
right? I mean, like guys who are qualified.
It's regional guys who that is their job. They go watch tape on all these guys. They go to games.
Do they watch tape?
Yeah, I think so.
You do?
I think the good ones do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
But like, I'll give you an example. Like Grayson Grundhofer here at
Grayson Grundhofer is awesome.
He's so legit. He's great.
Awesome, dude.
I love him.
I got a man crush on Grundhofer. Like, because I've had to get ready for Baylor games.
We'll send him this clip.
I've had to get ready for Baylor games, and getting ready for Baylor games before I did this. This is when I got my first college football assignments from ESPN, and I would like dig in. There's so much podcast stuff out there, and Grundhofer was the guy who, if I wanted to know about a Baylor player. I mean, the breakdown.
He's such a good resource.
And he's right.
Yeah.
He was right.
So, but he has a
vibe on what's going on with that team, too.
But you saw what he said about this kid you're talking about.
What did
Phillips
he say?
From South Oak Cliff. He said he put up a tweet that said, basically what I just said. I got that information from Grayson. Leads the team in tackles for loss. Here's what he did. He produces like crazy on the field. And then he put 4 stars in his tweet.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And now Grayson can say whatever he wants, and that doesn't make him a 4-star recruit. But Grayson would evaluate him as a 4-star, right? And again, that carries weight with different people. But like the point is, these guys can say whatever they want. Scotty B points out Terrence Williams, who is still in my March Madness bracket with the final 16 greatest Baylor players of all time. Dallas Cowboys receiver for 6 years, 2-star.
Scotty B.
So thank you, Scotty B, for pointing that out. Yeah, there's been, story after story after story of kids, and especially in Texas, bro. Especially, you'll see my bias for having grown up here in Texas. Dawson Pendergrass played at like a 2A high school.
Franklin.
No, but that's another example. Bryson
Texas.
Washington, that's a small school.
Bryson Washington,
that's
Franklin.
A small school. There's all these kids at these small Texas high schools, or even like this kid that we just signed from this big Texas that. Like the talent pool is so deep. There's all of these diamonds in the rough constantly.
Dude, like where Christy went to high school, right? Like she went to Marcus High School. And then there's another high school, Flower Mound. They're both 6A. Like there's so many, like, and in the Metroplex period, the depth of talent in those areas, like at these 6A schools, I don't know how you evaluate them all.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like, and that's why I think some of these guys are. Well, I'm not going to say they're full of crap, but I just think it's, again, Patrick Mahomes, Jason Kelce, a 2-star. I mean, and I get it. These guys develop and It doesn't necessarily mean the analysis was wrong, but it certainly, to me, is a window into, okay, that's what they are right now, but there's a lot left. There's, the marathon is long, dude.
Big time.
And it's
Big
a war
time.
of attrition. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to break down the Buzz Williams hire. Why would anyone leave Texas A&M? We'll be back after this.